Today we are joined by an actress who has appeared in games such as Batman Arkham City and XCOM Enemy Unknown, countless cartoons, most notably Disney's Doc Mcstuffins, and is the voice of NBC. But to many of us, she will always be known as Ashley Williams from BioWare's Mass Effect series. So join us as Koobismo.com goes in the workshop with Kimberly Brooks.
Welcome to another installment of Koobismo.com's In the Workshop, where we sit down with some of the most fascinating people in the gaming industry and storytelling world. I'm joined by Phil Hornshaw and, most importantly, the lovely Kimberly Brooks. Kimberly, I know it's taken some time for us to finally connect, so thank you for fitting us in.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So you've been working quite a bit, but tell us how your career started. Where did it all begin?
My actual professional voiceover career began about, well, let's just say more than 10 years ago. Okay, more than 15. And I'd always been an actress my whole life. I was in my first play when I was, I think I was 7 or 8. I was in children's theater, Alice in Wonderland. And I loved it from the get-go. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I also enjoyed singing, and I liked talking. So it was a natural fit when I, kind of went to Hollywood and to pursue my career. And I took a voiceover class, and my very first audition, I booked the job, and I never looked back. So that's pretty much how it went for me.
And that's not a normal, stereotypical history of most voice actors or actors in general, where they go to an audition, hey, I got the gig. But when did you actually realize this could become a career? Was it a specific gig or a specific moment that you realized it's like, hey, I can do this for a living and actually be successful?
Well, at the time I got that first gig I auditioned, I was, I actually worked at the Grammy Awards. I was a receptionist. And, it was interesting because their whole philosophy there at the time was they really supported artists. And I found that to be true, except if you worked there. Because what happened was I started getting auditions, and, I'd, have to go on my lunch break and sneak out and, to get an audition. And I remember getting back one time and kind of getting yelled at by my boss. And, it happened a couple more times. And she said, you know what, your focus isn't here. You really need to go and, pursue your career. And so I got fired. That was the only time I ever got fired. I got fired because I was
fired from the Recording Arts Academy.
From the Recording Arts Academy. And that was 17 years ago, and that was the last job I ever had. So it was the best thing that ever happened, because I was forced to get out there, and the jobs, it worked for me. It was a perfect fit, and I got into the world of voiceover at a time where I just fit in perfectly, and it was more of a small community. This was, obviously before Voice Bank and before, the industry's, become kind of saturated with a lot of people that want to do it because it's such a great job.
Right.
So it's not even a job. We don't say job. We say I played today. That's what I got to do. But yeah, so basically that was pretty much when I was forced to realize it, because I got fired.
Well, and from someone who's, as we know, you work quite a bit, but, for most, upcoming voice actors, they would assume, well, it's Kimberly Brooks. Of course, she's just going to get gigs, and she turns down gigs daily. Do you still go to auditions? And if so, how often?
Yes. Oh gosh, I wish it was like that. I wish there was like this place you reached and all of a sudden the jobs just poured in, but I find it to be a constant hustle. And by that, I mean, I audition every single day. Lots of times I do it right out of my own booth at home, which is great because, you're not driving, and you can get more auditions in that way. So yeah, I'm doing that every single day, and I do get a lot of jobs, but I work really hard to get those jobs too. Most of the time.
Well, And because you work so much, obviously you do get quite a large amount of gigs out there. We've seen you in, cartoons. We've seen you in video games. We've seen, hear you on NBC all the time. But I mean, you've played some amazing characters. I mean, across a multitude of games. Obviously recently we look back and of course we go, okay, you're Ashley, but to the Batman fans, you're a big feature on the Batman games for, heck, you've appeared on Halo 4, XCOM, you can go through and go, wow, Kimberly's on, 7, 8, 10 games this year, plus, your regular gigs on cartoons. Do you have a favorite role or just a couple favorite roles, and what makes those special to you?
A favorite role. Well, Ashley has been amazing because I have gotten to travel. I've gone to London, New York. I've done, all the Comic-Con things. People love the game. They love the writing. They love the characters. So Ashley's definitely right up there for me because just getting to intermingle with the fans is something that I don't normally do as a voiceover actor. You're not recognized necessarily on the street, and you could be talking to someone. I have had my voice recognized before, though, by someone actually for Ashley, and he's like, "Are you Ashley?" I don't know where I was, but I thought that was really great. And it's just a fun role, and it's been a role that I've gotten the opportunity to play over, a number of years. So she's right up there. I used to be in a show called Mucha Lucha, and was on Kids WB.
Right.
That was one of my favorite roles. I played Buena Girl, and another character called Snow Pea, who was an actual snow pea and could only say snow pea.
Easy script.
Yeah, it was pretty standard stuff, but that was a really fun role. And maybe my ultimate favorite is I play one of the Hex Girls on Scooby-Doo. So I get to be in a band, and one of the band members is Jennifer Hale, who
nice.
You may recognize her name a little bit.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Didn't she star in some game recently?
Yeah, I think she's done 1 or 2 games, maybe something you guys have heard of. But anyway, Jennifer Hale, as you know, Femme Shep, is my bandmate, and the other bandmate is Jane Whelan, who is she's in the Go-Go's.
Right.
So I'm basically a rock star when I go to do that character on Scooby-Doo. So that's right up there. And we actually get to record, and so I'd say those are some of my favorite roles.
That's awesome.
So you just mentioned a bunch of very cool roles that are not video games, which is so. First off, where might fans hear you on any given day right now? And then also, what's the difference between, say, working on a cartoon and working on a video game or doing promos, stuff like that?
Well, luckily, I am, I work a lot in the promo world and commercials and video games and animation. So, for instance, you might hear me in a Tylenol commercial right now. Or a Coffee Mate commercial. I've been the voice of Coffee Mate for a few years. I'm also the voice of SoapNet, which is, if you're into like reruns of 90210 and soap operas, you might turn to that channel. And so you hear me daily on that show, and then you might hear me on NBC doing some digital tosses or promos. And what else? What other things you would hear me on? I'm on a TV show called Doc Mcstuffins on Disney, which is like their #1 show right now. And actually, I just found out that our Doc Mcstuffins characters are going into Disneyland at California Adventure.
Oh, man. Awesome.
I know. I'm like, oh, it's pretty cool. And then I'm also on another show called Winx, which is on Nickelodeon. And I get to play a bad girl, which I love. I'm a bad fairy on that one. I mean, I like being bad. It's so much more fun. So those are a few things, and I try to keep going. And as far as the difference between video games and animation, video games are really challenging. They can be vocally stressful. There's usually a lot of combat and fighting because that's what people like in games. Oftentimes most of the time, in fact, 100% of the time, you record by yourself. And so that can be challenging, especially like we were talking about with Ashley, with the love scenes, for instance. That's kind of hard to do, by yourself. So that's the way that works. And also I find that video games are so involved and intricate, and the creators of these games spend so much time creating these worlds that are so real that there's a big kind of a learning curve when I go and work on these shows. It's like I got to learn the language and to speak, and so those things are all a little challenging. And also there's no residuals for video games, because I don't like that, because we work so hard on those games.
That's a bummer. That
is a bummer. And then cartoons, generally, back in the olden days, you'd have the whole cast there, and you'd have if you're lucky enough, like I work on anything at WB, like Batman or any of those shows that I work on, if you get a good director, you're going to have a table read, and you're going to have the actors there, and you're going to have a chance to really approach it the same way you do on camera almost. So I like that, because you get a chance to get really, get into your character a lot. And it's a lot of fun to work with those animation people.
So what do you have to do to prepare for a role like that? Well, for both, actually, since they're so different. When knowing that you have to go into a video game booth and be alone and invent it all pretty much in your head, how do you get set up for that?
Well, I feel like having experience, it comes in handy, because you don't want to be, the thing about it is there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of endings, there's a lot of options, this. So things are recorded, more than once, depending on the way. So there's a lot that has to get done in a session. So you kind of have to be quick.
Right.
So I think the best thing to do is if they can send you the script ahead of time, sometimes, usually they don't, but if you can get a little bit of the script stuff ahead of time, you can be a little bit more prepared. And BioWare is awesome, because they have they've developed their own way of recording. So I have an opportunity oftentimes to hear the other actor in the same scene. So it's sort of a cheat, and I'm actually getting to act with Jennifer Hale in a scene, for instance, if she's been in and recorded before me, or vice versa. So that really was a huge development for me as an actor on working on this game, Mass Effect. And I think the game got better as a result, because you're actually acting with someone, which was unheard of in video games before that.
Right. So do you have a method of sort of getting into character and maintaining it ahead of getting into a session like that?
Yeah, I do. I feel like I get in a zone when I go in there, and I like the lights kind of low, and especially in Mass Effect, working with Caroline, she's a really good director. I love her voice. It's very soothing, because it was all phone patches. She wasn't even in the room with me. She's up in Canada.
Right.
And she's in my ear and directing me and telling me what's going on in the scene, because you get the dialogue, but you also have direction. You also have context of where you are in the scene, because you might notice in some of the games, like sometimes one character is yelling and another character is talking in like a normal voice, or sometimes continuity's off, because you can't ever know where you're going to be in every situation, what the proximity is to the person you're speaking with, or those things you kind of get taken for granted when you don't have another actor to act with. And so yeah, that was really helpful in that whole situation, just having her in my ear and having the direction. Yeah, I need a lot of direction.
You mentioned combat earlier, and I've heard that there, I'm sure it's tough doing the sort of grunts and the yells for calling out grenades and stuff like that. What is
efforts? They call them efforts.
Right. What's that all like, getting prepped for that?
And then another thing they did was they made it used to be, it would be like you have to give them 3 of everything, like they call it an ABC take. So they would want an ABC take of you taking a punch, taking an impact. So it would be like a, and then like and then the next one you'd make it a little louder, and then the next one, whatever, you know. So you would have to do that 3 times, and then they would be like, okay, well, can you make it sound more like, okay, and then you'd be there all day. So now they will have, and I've done this in a lot of games where they have a template of the sounds, sort of. It's sort of like a cheat sheet.
Okay.
So because they have to be the file size, and they have to be, you know how this works, and you know the lengths of a sound, and maybe they want it shorter, and you know whatever. So they have their templates already set of the impact sounds that they want, and the effort sounds. So I cheat. Basically, I cheat.
You mentioned that you've got a studio at home. Do you do your own engineering, or do you have somebody help you out?
I am my own engineer. I'm not that great at it, as you can tell, as long as it took us to get set up on this chat room.
I blame Google for that. So
I blame Google. I blame everybody else for everything. Yeah, no, I've learned a lot. Actually, I record on Pro Tools or Twisted Wave, which is another similar dummied down program. And my auditions, I usually record them. I get the script, I record them, and then I send an MP3 over to, you know, whoever's casting, usually my agents. So that's pretty much how that works.
So what would you recommend for people who are just starting out if they wanted to set up something similar, especially if they're on a budget?
Well, there's so much great stuff out there now. I mean, I loaned it to someone, but I bought a little iMic. You can plug it right in. You can use GarageBand. You can use, you know, for voiceover, you need 1 track. You need a quiet room. So I would recommend going for auditions. If you're just trying to get auditions out there and you're not going to be recording anything, sessions, I would go to like your Mac store, get a nice something compatible with GarageBand, or you know, Twisted Wave is also a really great program. I know people use other software, and just get a good quality mic, but it doesn't have to be, you know, a $1,500 mic or anything. You can just get something like that and get a setup going.
Sure.
Where you can do your editing and, you know, and just have email available. That's what everybody's doing.
Cool. So if you could give one piece of advice to people who are just starting out as voice actors, what would that be?
I would say, you know, voice acting is attractive to a lot of people because it's a fun job. It is an amazing job. So every day when I go to work, I'm just so grateful. But it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of rejection. And like I said before, they used to say, if you do 20 auditions and you book one thing, you're doing amazing. But now I think it's more like if you do 40 auditions and you book something, you're doing amazing, because there's a lot of competition. So I would say if you're really serious about it, pursue it, give it everything you've got, go to as many auditions as you can, do as much voiceover as you can, even if it's free, record outgoing messages for people, do whatever you got to do to just get in that zone of voiceover and take classes. That's how I got in. So that's what I would recommend. I think, it takes work to get there, and you have to be willing to do the work.
Right. So you've got 2 kids and they're still in elementary school, is that right?
My daughter's in elementary school, and now my son is actually in junior high.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So they know what you do.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. How do they describe it? Do they ever show you off to your friends or to their friends?
My daughter does. There's a couple things. Last week I did a voiceover actually on Wizards of Waverly Place, and that's one of her favorite shows. So I actually finally made it to coolness in her view.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, they know. They like, because they watch.
Right.
They watch a lot of the shows. I've worked on a lot of stuff on Cartoon Network and a lot of stuff on Nickelodeon. So they're very excited about when they hear me. So they like it. They think it's cool.
So yeah, do Do your kids show any interest in maybe following in your footsteps?
My, you know, sometimes my agents will call and they need a kid for something for an audition, and so my kids occasionally have auditions. And my son actually got really close to getting on a Disney cartoon. I think he was just a little too young.
Oh.
And he just I don't know, but and he had a few callbacks for that. It's called Bubble Guppies. It's a cute show. And then my daughter did a commercial, a voiceover commercial, but they're really into their own things. My daughter's like total jock athlete, is all into basketball and soccer, and my son is a musician, and he plays piano and violin and bass.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so they're just, but they're both really into video games, so
That's cool.
it's a whole new generation.
So let's talk a bit about conventions. Obviously, Kimberly, we met back at San Diego Comic-Con. What's it like for you to see people at cons cosplaying one of their favorite characters or wearing something, say, Mass Effect related, knowing that you were a major part in bringing that universe to life? Someone walks up to you dressed as Ashley. What's that like?
Well, it's so cool. I mean, the whole comic book convention, or the cons, are they're just really exciting, and they're really fun, and the energy is so just so great, because I can tell now when you see a lot of people together and how much time they spend with the characters, how dedicated they are to the game and the follow through, and you realize how important these games are to people, and to be a part of that, to be, it's just so much fun, and it's really exciting, and it's one of the best parts of what I do. And I didn't know, because I just sort of discovered the conventions, and I was invited because Allie actually couldn't go to London, and so she called me literally like on a Tuesday and was like, "Do you want to go to London this weekend?" And I was like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So it was kind of one of those things. It was a last minute thing, and that was the first. I had been to Comic-Con before, but not with this sort of anticipation of Ashley and all this stuff. And the welcome that I received was mind blowing, and just the fans, and they're very polite in England, very polite. But they're just so hardcore into it, just like anywhere. So, and they were just so nice, and I hung out with the fans, and it was awesome. And it's inspiring, makes me want to do more games. And so I really love it.
Well, I think most people listening would be excited to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hopefully someone who's hiring voice actors for games is listening.
So you mentioned you just started getting into the convention world, especially now with, the Ashley character.
Yes.
And you said you've gone before, but not obviously as such a big role. What do you like most about the conventions? And if there's one you haven't gone to that you've heard about that you want to go to, is there anything that stands out to you?
Well, I may be going to PAX East in Boston, and I had never been there before, so that would be great. And I was invited to go to New York, and that was really fun. And then obviously I live in LA, so the San Diego Comic-Con was just a hop, skip, and a jump, and that was really great. I don't know. I'm learning about just, even in speaking with some of the other people earlier about, there's so many of these conventions all over, and, she's like, well, this one's small, but I would love to go to anything where people would be excited about Mass Effect characters being there, I think, and anything else that I work on, so other games. Batman is another one where people like Oracle.
Yeah.
People, love Oracle.
Yeah.
For sure. And the cool thing about that is it's completely based on your voice.
Isn't that weird? That's really weird. Yeah. I got to play Batwoman in a movie, actually. Right. It was a direct-to-video movie. It was Curse of the Batwoman. And I liked that one a lot because my character was drawn to look a lot like Halle Berry. And I was like, you know what? I I really liked this character, and I thought the voice matched really good with, it matched really well. So that was a good marriage right there of voice and character. I loved that.
Well, for anyone listening as well, if you're definitely a fan of Kimberly Brooks, that's something I think you'll definitely want to check out. Definitely. Now, just a random question here. Have you ever had someone come up to you and apologize to killing you off in Mass Effect 1 or 3?
Yes. It's embarrassing. They're like, I really like you, but I killed you. Or I didn't like Ashley at all because she was really annoying. So I had to get rid of her. But no, I understand. I mean, you got choices to make. It's like life. That's what's so great about the game, You get to take what journey you want to take. So no, I'm not offended by that. I think it's kind of funny, actually, because people they feel really bad about it. I'm like, it's not really me, just so you know.
Well, you're friends with Raphael.
Yes, I love Raphael.
So, I mean, when it comes down to it, someone had to choose between you and him. Have you guys ever had that discussion?
We've had that discussion many times, and I think it's pretty much, the ladies like Raphael. What are you going to do? I mean, he's a sweet guy. He's got an amazing voice. He's so sweet. Yeah, it seemed like I noticed a lot of ladies coming up to him because I was sitting next to him actually in San Diego, and they liked him a lot. And I heard him actually recording an outgoing message for someone's voicemail, and she just swooned. It was unbelievable. I think I need to have him record a message for me, an outgoing message for me. So I would kill me and keep Raphael, just for the record.
So we were talking about this earlier, but you've done a lot of work with BioWare. How did you get connected with the studio?
I think it was just the old-fashioned way. I auditioned, for everything. Actually, I was not originally cast as Ashley because
really?
When I went in, they had already started, and I don't know what happened with the actress they had. I have no idea what happened, if either she left or they didn't, I don't know. But when I went in, I was replacing somebody. So I did audition for the role of Ashley for the first, in the first game.
So were there differences in the process when you were recording, say, between the two games that you were principally on, Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 3? Did they feel different? Was the process different?
Oh, yeah.
A long time had passed.
First game, well, we had different directors. The first game was directed by Jenny McSwain, and who I love. I've worked with her quite a bit. She's a really great director. So, there was a different feel, and I didn't know Ashley yet. So it was developing Ashley, and I was confused a little bit by her because she's this tough soldier. She doesn't take anything off anybody. She's all about the cause. And then she's writing poetry in her, bunker or whatever. And, and she's in love with Shepard, but she's a soldier. So there was a lot going on with her. And I thought, wow, this is a lot more than a typical video game character than I've played in the past. Right. And I could tell that this was something different. And they said, this is going to be a big game. This, the technology, everything. And they were right. And then by the third game, of course, I know Ashley, and the technology has gotten so good with, their, being able to act with the other actors, and the writing, I'm sure the writers, are much more, they could go a lot deeper because we're 3 games in, so right. Yeah, it was definitely a big difference.
So you mentioned you were friends with Raphael. Does that have an effect on how you act with those characters, or did it have an effect as you were recording for either of the games when you know the people you're acting against?
Not really, because with video games you record alone,
right?
So, and I've known Raphael for years, way before Mass Effect, and so no, it doesn't really affect. I mean, it makes it more fun, and it makes it kind of cool, and like when we see each other, we had the same agent, and so when we would see each other, which is not that often because, you know, kind of isolated in this voiceover world, especially now that everyone has home studios. But whenever I would see him, you know, that would be a really good thing to bond on in the game, and the success of the game, and just the fans and how much, you know, feedback we'd both been getting. And it's because of Raphael, really, that I sort of got even more involved with the fans, because he's the one who sort of turned me on to that, just what was going on out there. So it's kind of, yeah, I was kind of oblivious to it. I was, because I had never had this response before. So I feel like a rock star, you know, just because so many people love the game, you know?
Right. Do you have a favorite moment in Mass Effect? If based on dialogue, if there is one, what would it be?
I like the love scenes. I like this the intimate scenes with Shepard. And just when she's not necessarily being a soldier and having to be so aggressive and, you know, trying to prove a point all the time. I liked that softer side of Ashley. And then the drunk scene was obviously really fun. And I've made this joke before, but I was like, maybe we should really bring booze in here and do this thing right. But that didn't really happen. So
they didn't go for it.
No.
You should have been like, that's my method. That's
I know. Don't you know I'm a method actor? I know, I should have said that. But we got through it.
So we talked a little bit about people coming up to you and apologizing for killing you off. Has that made it to like a unique experience for you as an actor to be sort of on one side or the other of the story like that? Yeah. Sort of a unique situation.
It really is. It is totally unique. And I don't think, I mean, I think that was a part of the cool technology of the game was, you know, if you killed her in game 1, you know, that would totally affect, you know, the results of the game in game 3 for you, or what, you know, experience you had all the way through. So, yeah, that was cool. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't really play the game, especially when the first game came out. You know, I didn't know it was going to keep going. And so I didn't even know that was an option, that people could kill me. And why would they? Yeah, I was kind of shocked the first time someone said that to me. It was like, how dare you? But I get it.
So, Kimberly, we started talking, you know, a few months back about, you know, getting you scheduled for an interview. Mm-hmm. Obviously, life and career have, you know, taken some time for us to connect. Mm-hmm. But I know at some point you had a chance to check out, you know, the projects we're working on the Marauder Shields comic. What are your thoughts and opinions about something like that?
I think it's amazing. I'm so impressed with what you guys are doing. The quality's amazing. And I love, as you mentioned before, like how the storylines you're not altering anything from, you know, the storylines, or just from the, you know, original.
Except for the last 15 minutes.
Except for the last 15 minutes. Oh, yeah, other than that.
It's not important.
But, yeah. Pay no attention to that. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. And I'm sure you have a lot of people that are really grateful that you guys are keeping it alive.
So generally when, you know, I think I kind of answered it, but like when you hear something like, say, the audiobook, where you have these basically fans contributing their time and talent to study an actor, study like a performance that, you know, something that you would make to try to emulate it to the best of their ability based on exactly how you portrayed a character. How do you react to something like that? I know some people are indifferent. I mean, do you see pride? Are you ever get annoyed?
No, not at all. I think it's great. I mean, it's like anything else. You guys are telling a story and you just get into the story, and I don't have any ownership over Ashley in that way. You know, I feel lucky that I got to play her in the game, but I think it's great that you guys are that you're doing this and that you're getting other actors a chance to do this, because who knows what can come out of this for those people as well. And I just think it sounds good. I think it sounds really good.
Awesome.
It's like, it reminds me of those old like radio shows, you know, when it's like almost when you read a book, how you have to fill in more with and it's almost richer because you're using your own imagination. That's what it reminds me of. I think it's really neat.
That's cool. Well, we're going to jump in to finish up the actual interview. We do a segment here called Turbo Questions. Basically, fast questions, fast answers. You know, it could be a couple words or a sentence. But I have a couple of them set aside, you know, when I was thinking about the interview for you. So we're just going to jump into it, and here we go.
All right.
If you could play any character in any series, who would it be?
Scully.
If you weren't an actor, what career would you have?
Chef.
Chef. Are you a good cook?
I love food.
You didn't answer the question.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a really good cook.
Favorite voice ever?
John DiMaggio. He does it for me.
Best way to unwind from a long session?
A nice glass of Syrah.
You're friends with Raphael. Have you finally caught up on Once Upon a Time?
Damn it. No, but it's TiVo'd.
It's TiVo. How many episodes back are you?
When did this show start?
last year. It's on Netflix, or at least the last season is.
Tonight, I am going to sit down and I'm going to start that show.
His episodes are pretty good.
I love him.
Considering he's probably going to hear this.
Raphael, I'm sorry.
And finally, what does the future hold for Kimberly Brooks? Projects, personal, what you got going for you?
Oh, wow. I'm moving. That's a big one.
Nice.
It's actually huge because we're remodeling. So
Tore the roof off, right?
Yeah, the roof is, well, the roof's back on, sort of, partially. Yeah, that's a big undertaking, but I just hopefully just plugging ahead. I'm working a lot, and I don't know, Mass Effect 4. What do you think? I think that would be. I'm just saying, maybe if we say it enough, it'll actually happen.
I feel like we could start a petition. The internet does some cool things.
Are you saying Ashley in Mass Effect 4?
I'm saying we need. That's what I see for my future. I don't know if BioWare sees that,
right?
But I see that.
So this isn't an official. That's not a declaration of what's happening. It's a declaration of what you want.
That's a declaration.
So we shouldn't go directly to the internet and spread that as a rumor.
Because I was seeing the headline right there.
Unless we want to just like make this thing go viral, and then they have to create something because there's such a demand for it. I'm just saying that might be a plan.
We can do whichever you like. We'll talk after. And then I guess any other games or shows or projects you want to announce?
Other games or shows. I should have IMDb'd myself. I can't keep up with me. I would say, did I already mention the Disneyland thing? I think I did.
You did. Yes.
So that's pretty cool. No, I have this. I'm going to be in this game Aliens that's coming out. I think did it come out already?
Colonial Marines?
Yeah.
Oh man, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's something.
Yeah.
I think
great.
It comes out tomorrow or this week.
I don't think it's that soon, but it is really soon. I think it's not till
when I heard it was February something, 15th or something like that.
Maybe I'm totally wrong then. You might be right.
Unless they changed the date, but that's what I was told.
Awesome. Kimberly, thank you for hanging out in the workshop with us today.
Thank you so much,
thanks very much
for the interview. I hope I answered the questions right.
There's no right or wrong.
You were great.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. And anytime you have something to announce, we will love to have you back on.
I would love to come back on. And maybe this time I'll be able to actually log on my own.